Nancy Mace pulled a "don't you know who I am" on police officers and TSA officials at Charleston International Airport on Thursday, according to an incident report from Charleston Airport Police. Here is apparently what happened. She repeatedly stated, "We were blanking incompetent, and this is no way to treat a blanking US representative." PFC Aaron W. Reed, who serves with the airport police, wrote in the report. Reed also wrote that Mace told officers they would never treat Tim Scott like this, referring to the US senator from the state and former GOP presidential candidate, and reported that she planned to contact Elliott and tell him how horrible she has been treated, in reference to the airport's president and CEO, Elliott Summy. Now, Reed further wrote that Mace was cursing and complaining as officers escorted her to her gate, and that she continued her tirade until boarding. Another officer present for the encounter, Ernest Southers, offered a corroborating statement. So how did this altercation start? According to the report, the encounter between Mace and the airport police began after the lawmaker grew angry with airport officials because she had not been met at her vehicle. According to Mace, airport officials typically meet her at a designated area, escort her to a crew checkpoint, and then to her gate. That escort, she said, is standard TSA policy for elected officials. Ahead of her arrival, Mace's team told airport officials that she would arrive for escort in a silver BMW. Reed and Southers wrote that they were told to expect Mace in a white BMW and watched for such a vehicle, but never saw one arrive. Airport security footage shows Mace arriving in a silver car, as her team's texts specified. Mace's team texted airport police that the lawmaker did not see her escort upon arrival, and she proceeded without them to a security checkpoint. Reed and Southers wrote that they met Mace at a known crew member line after being alerted that she had arrived. Reed wrote that Mace immediately began loudly cursing and making derogatory comments to us and about the department at that time. According to Reed, after Mace boarded, a gate agent approached the officers who escorted her to her flight, and he was in disbelief over Mace's behavior. Reed wrote that the officers then spoke to a TSA supervisor who said Mace spoke sharply to several TSA agents and that he was upset about Mace's behavior. Here's what Mace's team said about the incident. Apparently, simply arriving at an airport now makes headlines if you're leading the race for governor. We are forced to take the Congresswoman's safety extremely seriously. After the world watched Charlie Kirk's assassination, the threats against her have only intensified. Our security procedures are based solely on legitimate safety concerns, and any attempt to politicize this reality is both dangerous and reckless. Now, Mace went on Fox to defend her behavior. Take a look.
Yes, I did have an interaction on Thursday. I want to be very clear here. We saw last year 2 assassination attempts on President Trump. Just a few weeks ago, we all witnessed as Charlie Kirk was assassinated right before our eyes in public. We've seen that Steve Scalise years ago was shot, 4 or 5 times. And in the political environment we have today, there's no room for error when it comes to security. I have at this particular airport and no other. This is the only airport where I have any issues, but my children have had issues here, my employees, but we have had over 24 security breaches at this particular airport just 11 months into this year today. I've been in 4 airports in the last 5 days without incident. So yes, I did confront those who did not show up to do the job. My safety was put at risk. This is a serious issue, and mediocrity when it comes to airport security and security breaches will not be tolerated when I'm governor and not when I'm in Congress for nobody.
JR, is this an issue, or is this a matter of like a legitimate security breach, or is this a simple misunderstanding that could have been quickly and swiftly resolved?
Could have been chuckled over, could have been laughed about afterwards. Oh, white versus silver. I mean, I guess I can see this. Because then what did happen to Nancy Mace as she walked through the airport where she could have been harmed so badly? And by the way, when you bring up those types of arguments as she did there as her excuse, and then she goes a complete partisan line of people that she says were almost harmed or were harmed and all this, it completely voids her argument. So she's gonna completely avoid the fact that we've seen and then scrubbed by this administration all the partisan right-wing extremist attacks on people. Overwhelmingly, the number of, we've seen it, we've proven it, we've said it a million times. They don't care, they just go for this same partisan line. So once it's obvious that that's her objective here in making any of these statements, we can go ahead and ignore the fact that she says that she was fearing for her life. She wasn't. She's looking to get some more attention, as she always has, which also some of her Republican colleagues have pointed out that's all she's ever been about, which since she's talking about her staff, they've also said they've been so tired of her ranting and raving, and her only objective is to promote herself. That's the whole purpose. She mentioned twice in that discussion about being fearful for her life, about how she's gonna be governor. Sounds like she's concerned about how she wants to be governor more so than she is about any kind of safety and protocols and things that she thinks are supposed to go differently. One last small thing. Many folks, when they're in these positions of not being harassed by folks or taken aside the way many minority folks are here in this country, they start bringing up those minorities as the excuse or the example that gets treated so much better than them. So she brought up Tim Scott. Did I hear that right? She brought up Republican Senator Tim Scott as someone who might be treated better than Nancy Mace. Tim Scott is the only black Republican, as much as he's an idiot, has come out years ago before Donald Trump came along and said heal. He came out and said that he was harassed by I think Capitol Police or some Senate police, someone in positions of power to hold him up because they didn't believe his black ass was a senator because he didn't have the right Senate pin on. And he said, for the first time, it was kind of crazy. I feel like I was racially profiled. But she brings up Tim Scott. Maybe because that was the only black person that she could think of as being someone that gets treated better than her, who he's been the only one to point out how he was treated the way that most other minorities are treated in this country when they feel you're not supposed to be where it is that you are. But Nancy Mace is the victim here. How many times have we heard that statement?
The perennial victim, of course. Simple misunderstanding could have been easily resolved, but it's come to this.
If you enjoyed that, then make sure that you never miss another video by subscribing. And if you want a little more, consider hitting the join button and becoming a member. So you're probably wondering, why would I do that? Well, when you do that, you get access to bonus content that I make every single week, and it's a lot of fun. You get custom emojis and more. If you join at tier 3, by the way, you even get access to a monthly member hangout with myself. And you'll get all that going forward, but you'll also unlock years of the back catalog that is literally 100 or more bonus clips and top 10 lists and debates and more. So what are you waiting for?